beautiful community on this gorgeous and very, very powerful day. I don't know about you, but I feel like this day is just community on this gorgeous. Let me turn this volume down. Very, very powerful day. I don't know about you, but I feel like, there we go. Blessings. Thank you for hopping on Instagram. I'm so very grateful. You know, this is such a very powerful, powerful subject that we're going to talk about here today on this beautiful program that I'm so grateful to share with you in these beautiful communities of Instagram and YouTube. The throat chakra is such a powerful, powerful medicine when we truly step into the initiation and find our true voice, and then be able to embody it through our will and express our truth in this world. This is very powerful territory. And for those of us who have come in to this lifetime with perhaps a blockage in that throat center, you know exactly what I mean. And I pray that if you are guided to come to this show today, that it really, really has some nuggets in here for you that you will be truly served by. You know, one of the mantras, and in some of my posts here on Instagram, I include this notion of I speak beautiful words and I think beautiful thoughts. And that's really at the premise and the crux of us creating the reality and the experience that we wish to live by. We're aware at this point that everything is vibration in this universe, right? Everything is energy. And our spoken word is an aspect of us, either conscious, unconscious, superconscious, or subconscious, that is given wings when it leaves our mouth. And equally so, I know we speak a lot here about the thoughts that we think and how powerful they are in connecting us with the grid matrix. And even more so is the power of our word. And so we think about this ability that we have, this very, very powerful ability that we have through our spoken word, and understanding the more we get into the truth of who we are and we deconstruct those aspects of untruth, and we begin to live courageously, fearlessly, and learn to open the throat chakra, learn to allow ourselves to truly express that which is the truth to us, we begin to experience a whole different dynamic in this universe, in this world, in the healing of our bodies. And it is really, really a very powerful initiation. So first of all, I want to say thank you again for everyone hopping on Instagram. Thank you for saying hi and giving a wave. And thank you everyone on YouTube. This is my show, 4D Trinity. I go live weekly on both of these platforms. And here at 4D Trinity, we bridge the unity of mind, body, and emotions with spirit. It is here that spirit, we know your spirit is directly connected to God, to source, to love, to the Almighty that is unfuckable with, that is eternal and beyond any bounds and limitations of the imagination. It expands beyond anything we can think of. And that's why we constantly come back to dispensing the past, coming into the truth of who we are, and it is a constant, right? We are constantly changing. We are constantly met with the influx of information through the social media, through life, through media, through friends, through family, through the world. And we are constantly given the opportunity to either be in agreement with those ideas and those notions coming at us, or otherwise, or not. And this is a big part of our listening, right? There is so much to the throat chakra. And often we think about the expression of it, about our ability to speak the truth. And this is a huge, huge initiation to living your truth. Also, there is the aspect of what are you hearing? Are you truly listening? Listening and speaking and communication, those are two sides, if you will, of the same coin of the throat chakra. So I really appreciate you being here with me again. My name is Tuesday May Thomas. If the information and the vibes you get here are juicy and you resonate, on my main page at Insta, and down below in the show more box on YouTube, you can go to my website and subscribe for my monthly love letter at my website. You can follow on Insta, and thank you all of the new subscribers at YouTube and the new followers at Instagram. So here we go. I speak beautiful thoughts and I think beautiful words, right? You can switch that around too. And it's one thing I know in the spiritual community, we're, as we become enlightened, we're like, fuck you. You can't tell me how to be spiritual. I'm going to be my own version of spiritual, right? And that's a part of our inner rebel, of our inner warrior, of our finding ourselves, of pushing against the stories that we've been told about the world, because it feels that we are born into this world, and our families, our parents, our cultures gift us stories about ourselves, gift us stories about the world, the things to be afraid of, the things to be in love with, how hard it is to make money, or that we should be ashamed of this, or that we should fear this or love that. So we have all these paradigms that we're given from the get-go, and those stories, because we are small, we just naturally come into agreement with them. And as we become awakened and aware and enlightened on our spiritual path, we begin to realize, okay, perhaps those stories have served me to a time, but perhaps they've also led me to certain paths of real deep initiation, of detriment to certain points. And at the same time, ultimately our liberation. We learn how to redefine those stories and lay the stories down that no longer serve us, because as long as we are in agreement with those stories, as a child, we subconsciously, unconsciously then repeat what we've been told by our mother, by our father, by our schools, by the whatever it is, by the systems, right? And again, as we become untangled by those systems and from those systems, we begin to become liberated and find our true expression of what is the truth to us. And sometimes it is just to sit in silence and to remain in silence until we know what that is. And the silence aspect is very important with the throat chakra, because this is it. This is what we're talking about today, is, are you listening? It's one thing to speak. And we know when there's a very overactive throat chakra, sometimes we wonder, is this person, and without judgment, but we're talking here, we're getting down. If we're in the company of someone that is just really talking and talking and talking and talking, there may be this question of like, well, are they hearing? Are they really listening to what I'm sharing? Are they really hearing, or through listening, deeply listening, getting a full picture of what's going on? And we can say the same for ourselves, right? If we do not have that balance and that ability to sit and to really listen, not only to what the world is telling us, to what our friends, our family, the structures that we have interface with on a daily basis, if we are not in that ability to really truly listen, and then to, from an inner place of your true self and inner compass, make a decision whether you are in agreement with that story that is being proposed to you or not, then we are allowing in the stories of the world unconsciously. And this is fine as long as we're unconscious. It almost seems like the unconscious level of our being is somehow, and I say this word mindfully, a protection for us. Yet as we become aware and we release those shields and we release those stories and we come into our true nature, whatever it is for you authentically, we begin to realize, like, if someone's saying something about whatever it is, whether it's social, whether it's political, whether it's about healing, and you're not in agreement with it, and you don't speak up, and they are simply laying their stories upon you, if you don't create a healthy boundary and learn how to speak up and say, well, you know what, actually, I'm not in agreement with that. I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm actually not in agreement with that. I have a different way of seeing things. And not that you have to do that constantly, but it's a part of the initiation of the throat chakra, that when, especially maybe more dangerous aspects or more challenging aspects are given us, and we don't have the courage in that throat chakra, in the third chakra, to extend up to the throat chakra to say, you know what, I'm not down with that. I'm not down with that aspect. What we're doing is we're allowing in those stories, that information, and we're allowing ourselves to have a sense of being in agreement with them. And so we then are unaware of the boundaries. We are not creating a healthy boundary for us. And so your ability to truly hear, to truly listen what is being said to you at any given time is of absolute importance. The higher your vibration goes, the cleaner the cleaner you want your aura and your space to be, the more mindful you are with your tongue. And it doesn't mean we can't have fun. And I know on social media, there's all sorts of stuff that we post and we crack up and we make fun of ourselves and this whole spiritual freaking pursuit, you know, of happiness and of enlightenment. Yet at the same time, there is this divine, there's a sincerity that is not only serious, but it is genuine. And there is a deeper aspect of the inner master within that is impeccable. And we begin to learn what we're allowing into our field, what we are allowing in and being in agreement with by not saying, I'm not down with that, versus by saying, you know what, I'm not down with that. Because when we don't speak up for our truth, when we don't speak up and say, you know, yeah, that's not for me, then we're allowing those aspects in. And on an unconscious level, we're saying, yeah, come into my aura, come into my field, into my mind space, into my personal matrix field, and I am in agreement with you. And so our ability to say no thank you, right, is very, very important. It is a muscle. And I know for me, for most of my life, I could not speak up for myself. And it got me into all sorts of precocious, is that even a word, situations, precocious situations with the opposite sex, because I didn't know how to say no. And there's a whole story about it in my book, The REIKI Apprentice. Thank you, everyone who supports and who has purchased this book and reviewed it on Amazon and all that. I'm so very grateful. But there's these stories, right, that if we're not given certain information, we have to find out on ourselves, by ourselves, and where you can get into these situations and you do not have the ability to speak up for yourself. You do not know how to exercise that muscle and say no, or to say no thank you, and which opens the doorway for more of that like energy to come in. And it's like that, whether it's a sexual situation or a financial situation, a business partnership, a creative thing. If you cannot have that ability to place your healthy boundary down, then you're saying yes to whatever all of that information includes. And this is why it's important to be able to listen. And that is why we meditate, because we're not only listening deeply to our higher selves, deeply to the truth within our hearts, outside of all the mind stuff, the minutia stuff, right? But ultimately, that higher self is linked to the voice of God. And God is whatever word you want to give it. You know, what I teach here is that God is a verb. It's not an old man in a rocking chair trying to tell you what to do and trying to control your life. God is a verb. It is a feeling realization that is rooted in love. And that's where we're heading. We're heading to this field of liberation, of expansion that is beyond words, really, that is rooted in a transmission of a feeling realization. And that occurs when we're deeply listening. And if we are, again, just not really listening to what people are saying to us, and we're just going along with whatever the world says, well, if you're fine with that, then that's cool. Yet as you awaken and you begin to feel like, you know what, I'm not actually down with this. You know, I want to stand up for myself, and I want to say, yeah, I want to, you know, stand for this, but I'm also standing for that. And these aspects are coming up because everyone's very heated in this political realm, you know, or whatever realm it is. But to be able to find your truth and to speak it, to give it a grounding rod through you, is what is going to ground your experience. So we're given these stories. When we're born, about who we are, about our race, our culture, our financial setting, are all of this information. And we know here that those stories are a part of the past. Those stories are a part of the grid matrix of collective consciousness, that when we come in, we're given that little satchel of information that connects us to all of those stories. And those grids then plug into us, and they inform us further of how we should live our lives. And until we find those aspects that are not in alignment with us, that are not in resonant with our true self, as we become awakened and enlightened, then we start to break the chains of limitation. And we begin to become aware that we have a choice, right? We know that the grid system is based on the binary system of love versus fear. It's very polarized, but we learn also that we have a choice, that we don't have to be focused and plugged into those fear-based notions that keep us locked into repeating the past. And often, right, our reality is the repetition, is a reflection of where we have repeated our words. So if you think about the words that you speak over your body, over your finances, over your relationships, over your family, over every aspect of your life, and where you are seeking things to heal, to change, to mature, to activate, Oh my gosh, the God phone is ringing, but he's vibrating instead of he's vibrating instead of ringing. So we're going to pick this up here in a second. But as we learn that we have a choice, there is such a liberation in that. And then the initiation is to consciously step into that choice, to consciously step into that awareness so that we learn to liberate ourselves through our word. I mean, really, it's like school. It's like playground stuff. When you learn how to not be bullied by other people's words, some people are very strong in their word. And again, I want to say thank you and hello to everyone on YouTube and on Instagram for saying hi and hopping on. I'm so very grateful. So again, our ability to hear, to listen, to truly listen, right, comes back to our ability to be still, like the ninja, like the yogi, right? Like the master that you are, to really be able to listen to the information being given to you so that from that point you can decide and make a clear, conscious choice of what is in alignment with you and what is not in alignment with you. And the higher we get vibrationally, the more frequentially we expand, the more we realize the absolute importance of being impeccable, not only with our word, the throat chakra, and how we express our truth, and all jokes and all that stuff aside, as I said earlier, but really when it comes to you, what are you saying? When you speak, you excite atoms. When you speak, you excite the atoms. We are atoms. Everything in the universe is made of atoms. Our experience here in the 3D is is absolutely atomic. Yet we know there's more. We know that beyond these atoms, what our truth is nothing. And that nothing is love. And ultimately, we're collapsing time, we're collapsing space, and we're using our conscious word and our conscious ability to hear, to reconstruct the atomic aspects that we are, to co-create the reality that we would have. Really, if you're done, if you are over the life that you're living or aspects of it, come back to your word. Come back to really meditating and considering or journaling about what you are saying yes to, even in your silence, right? So an experience for me that's in my book, The Reiki Apprentice, is I was being taken advantage of physically, sexually at a certain point in my life in a very interesting situation, and I could not say no. And because I could not say no, that person took it as a yes, and they kept pushing my boundary, pushing my boundary, pushing my boundary. And so this is it. Again, no matter where it is, unless we have the ability to say no, no, thank you. Are we deeply listening, and are we deeply speaking? And so there's this beautiful circulation, right? From hearing to speaking. It's like when someone is speaking and they say something and you don't hear them correctly, you can't understand what they're saying. And you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. What was that? What just happened there? That could have been some crucial information that could change your life forever in a positive way, or maybe in a challenging way. But by you just not properly acknowledging it and letting it slide, right? The power of the potential there has been missed for you to reinstate your center. And I know there's times and places where we're like, I'm not la 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 la, where you're like, I don't even need to hear that. And you just keep going. We learn how to ninja, we learn how to navigate in your own masterly way what is appropriate, where you're supposed to hang out and listen, and where you're supposed to be like, I'm just going to keep on walking, I don't need to listen to this stuff. Yet there's a time and space, and the more clear we become with realizing that every interaction in our life we have co-created. We have drawn these people, these places, these situations to us. And whether it's a beggar on the street, and whether it's someone that really annoys you, or a family member that's kind of pushing the boundary, or whatever it is, our ability to speak and to listen is important. So when someone says something that you can't hear, or you don't understand, what we do is we say, pardon me. And you see how that works together. You're hearing, you don't hear it, you don't listen. And so then you use your throat chakra again. You say, excuse me, pardon me, could you repeat that again? And then you listen again. There's this symmetry, this thing that happens, right? There's a triangle. Your ears, your throat, your mouth, this downward pointing triangle. Everything that you speak roots and grounds your experience here in the third dimension. Again, you excite atoms. So what are you speaking? And with what and how you are listening to what is given to you. How are you hearing it? And we know that there's filters, right? From those stories that we've been given from our parents, from our family, from our culture. So maybe someone is saying something, but the way that we hear it has to go through all of these filters of all of these stories. And that's the uncovering, though. That's the realization where we're like, wow, I've always been told this about the world. And as I started healing my life, I realized that that's actually just a story. And I can see things differently, and I can be liberated in one area or another. And so I want to talk to you. I pray for the highest mindfulness, because there's a lot I want to cover in this little hour that we have. We got 40 minutes left. So it was my birthday recently, and with a dear group of people, I gathered in the desert, and we partook in a divine mushroom ceremony, and taking to the mountains and listening and prayer and meditation, and just such a very, very powerful experience to be with Mother Nature and to climb the rocks, and one of my dear companions has been deaf for the most of her life. And recently she found an audiologist that was able to bless her with a technology by which she could hear. And she's gone through many doctors and many of these audiologists, and no one really hit the mark until this person. And she was able to now, with this new technology, actually hear on a level that she was never able to hear before. So we're on the mushrooms, we're doing a journey, we're doing a walkabout out in the desert. And she grabs my arm and she says, "Oh my God, I can hear your footsteps." Me and our other fellows, the group of us, she said, "I could hear your footsteps on the ground in the sand." And those of us that can hear, we can just imagine for a moment, or like a playground, right? That sand when you walk. She had never, ever, ever been able to hear that sound before. And she realized, she had a moment on those shrooms. She had a divine moment, and she realized that she could never hear the footsteps of humanity walking, that there had always been a pathway, there had always been a way. Yet she had always felt like she was looking here and looking there because she didn't have that ability to hone in through her ability to listen, her ability to hear. Yet with this technology, she was suddenly able to hear things that she had never heard before. And I'm sure the divine gift of the medicine of those mushrooms really amplified that. So she had this moment where she heard the footsteps, and she said, these are the footsteps of humanity. And she had a deep, beautiful awakening. And it speaks to this notion, and not that we take it for granted, but just that, wow, the beauty of the senses. And we know that we are more than just a body spiritually. We know that these senses are to be mastered, and that we ultimately have a greater sense and greater senses that expand beyond these 3D senses, but we learn to master them, right? We don't just zoom past them. We learn how to work. It's like if you're attuned with REIKI, right? The student really just can hang out with the Chakra ray forever, and that Chakra ray will give you information upon information. It will keep opening and opening and opening like a chakra, like the flowers, and gift you information the deeper you go with it. And likewise, all of this information, our ability to truly listen, our ability to truly speak, as we work on accessing those aspects of self and really listening to those truths within, they gift us information about ourselves and about the world. Now, I did make a few notes. So I just want to make sure. It is an initiation, right, to speak up. And it's interesting because I feel, take a moment to think about this. I have this feeling that, or I've had this notion, right, since I became aware about the throat chakra, that we all come into this life with an opening, right? We think about the chakra system. Let me just have a sip. So we think about the chakra system, right? The traditional 7 chakra system. And I have always, since I realized this awareness of the throat, I realized, wow, I believe I came in this life open from the root chakra all the way up into the heart. I felt activated and like open. All the qualities of all those chakras, like, I got it, I got this. Yet when it came to the throat, I could not speak up for myself. I could talk, I was a singer and all this stuff. But when it came to the real heavy bevy about saying no or saying yes, even, I didn't have that ability. That musculature wasn't there. So in this life, when you came in, how far up the ladder do you feel that you came in? What chakra are you working on in this life? Well, for me, it was the throat. And so that has always been that big initiation. And if you're the same, then you know that your ability to speak your truth, especially if you've had stories given to you or experiences in your youth that have beat it out of you, or that have told you that it's wrong, or if you feel like from a past life you've been guillotined and you've had your head cut off several times for speaking your truth, you might be a little shy, you might be a little anxious and be like, I got some old stuff here in my past life karmas that I gotta heal. So I can begin to open that throat and speak my truth and hear. So we're hearing, we're listening. So my dear friend, when she began to really hear those subtleties, remember, the voice for God is within nature. The voice for God is the quiet aspect that resides within all of the loud sounds. It is in the silence. And when we begin to hear on that subtle level, like bionic hearing, do, 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 that's what happens when we activate the throat chakra. When we allow those centers to be activated, we begin to hear beyond the world. And remembering, let me actually rephrase this. Hearing is one aspect. Let me rephrase that. Hearing is the 3D. Hearing is of the world. Listening is the 4D. Listening, truly listening, is when we're listening not only with the ears, but with the heart. When we're really listening to what someone is saying, to what they are conveying. That is communication. Communication is a two-way street, right? It's not just me talking and talking, although here on this show, that's what I do for the most part. But you know what I mean? And every day, it's not just like, listen to me talk, talk, talk. It's then being able to pause and truly be present for what your friend, what your family member, what the stranger on the street is saying. And it's, again, our ability to deeply listen. We cultivate that ability through being still in nature, through meditating. And through just 3D practice of, like, someone says something, you can't hear it, you can't, understand what they're saying. Pardon me. Again, you're hearing, you don't hear it, you use your throat chakra again. Excuse me, pardon me, can you repeat that? And then you throat chakra again through the ears. And then you can clearly speak what it is. And if you don't know what they're saying, this could be something that could change your life forever on a very subtle level or on a huge level. And so are we listening, right, to nature? Are we listening to the truth in our hearts? Are we listening to what the world is saying to us through those divine gifted beings that surround us now? Dear God, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. You used the vibration on the phone today instead of the ringer. Oh my God, I love that. God's like, in this world, everything is vibration. Yes. Oh, God wants me to speak about the I am. And God says, hello, everyone. Blessings. Well, I felt the vibration. God's like, of course you did. I am that I am. Yes, I will speak on that. You want me to read some of that? Okay, blessings. Namaste, God. God says bye. Thank you, dear God. Okay, so I'm so excited. I'm working on a new book called Holy Grail Hologram. And soon I'm going to work on getting it in that Amazon thing where you can pre-order it like a year before it's published. So I'm going to work on that. But what I want to talk about with it is that there's a section in it that I thought was going to be its own book about the chakras. But there's a whole section on it on the chakras. And I want us to remember that what we've taught here before is the second chakra is deeply connected to the throat chakra. And maybe you've heard of that before, that there's a connection. And it's really cute because my grandmother is a 93-year-old, very Mexican, beautiful woman. And she speaks. And when she speaks and she means it, And it's really cute because I see her body and her lower tummy below her navel pulls in. Like when she speaks, again, she speaks. And you can see her lower tummy like pull in when she's like has an expression. And I was with her yesterday and I was watching her and I was knowing that the show was coming up and I was thinking, wow, this is so cool, because that fully links that aspect of the second chakra with the throat. And what do we teach? We teach that the second chakra is the root of where your here I am is, the root of the truth of you. So the God phone, God, is encouraging us to read a little bit from this. So I'm going to just scan through here and see what guides. So the second or sacral chakra is the essence of this is the seed of your I amness, which is your here I am. And your here I am is the truth of why you're here. It is the truth of what you're doing here. It is why you're in a body here in this first place. The seeds of creation and of manifestation of that lay here in your lower tummy. These are the seeds of your creativity and your ability to manifest from a place of unbound, authentic authority. Deep inside the second chakra resides your watery, emotional, intuitive gut feelings. The intuitive instincts of your deeper knowing are here so that you know what it is to be true to yourself. It is here you know when you are not being honest towards others also. So there's more. We're going to skip on to that fifth chakra, to the throat chakra, and how this connects. Because the throat chakra is the seed of your I am that I am. And God on the God phone here was just reminding us that the I am is your power to collapse time and space and drop yourself into the present moment of the now. In the NOWOSPHERE, you in the now is you in your full power and authority. You in the now is your ability to hear, to see, to be as clear as you can be. So the fifth and the throat chakra, the seed of this is the I am that I am. And the mantra here is the I am that. And we consider that every time we speak in an I am fashion, we're not promoting the past. We're not suggesting anything or placing us outside of the now into the future. We are collapsing timelines again and allowing ourselves to be present in that which we speak in this moment. As we have determined that we belong, we are here, and that we are love, we move that up into the throat chakra. I am that is the affirmation. As you affirm, I am that, allowing that which you affirm through the throat chakra, through the voice and the spoken word, to be in attunement and alignment with your heart. To be truly in attunement and alignment with your here I am is the mighty presence of you being in your authentic truth. A calibrated throat chakra is being able to speak your truth over and over again with grace and with ease. But it is also that aspect to be able to hear the truth of others and to allow others their truth without having to push your agenda on anyone else. I think there might be something else I wanted to speak here. Let's just check. Chakra activation ignites your frequency and serves to set you free by matching what is your truth, that is what abides as truth in your deepest soul, with your words, actions, and deeds. In this way, we make sure that all of the wheels turning in your body are matching. All of your chakra centers of energy are in sync and in tune with one another. This creates a spiritual harmony that serves to connect what resides within you with what comes manifest outside of you. So that as you say your prayers, you meditate and begin to move as your most beautiful self out into the world, you do realize these most beautiful truths in your soul and begin to embody and live them. So we think about, I am that. I am that. When someone gives you information, you are either in agreement and you are saying, I am that, or I am not that. Does that match my I amness? Is that something that I would like to allow into my field? This is another aspect of the listening, because when we are truly, truly listening and hearing what others are saying to us, and again, if we do not draw a healthy boundary, especially where there is an aspect that we are not in agreement with that really doesn't serve us, then we are allowing those energy lines to hook into us. We are in agreement, even unconsciously. And this, again, almost doesn't even have any, it doesn't seem as important when it's not important, but as it becomes important, as it begins to matter spiritually, it really begins to matter. Where we allow our energy to go, what we allow in. And so as information is given to us from the outside world. Again, we either agree and allow ourselves to be plugged in through those thread lines of energy to the grid matrix of collective consciousness, or not. Or we say, no, thank you, I'm going to decide otherwise. Actually, for me, this is my truth. And again, how do we do that? By deep listening, by really paying attention to what is being offered in this world. And some of it, you're just, you know, I don't know, if you're like me, a lot of the politics, you're just like, oh, that's funny, you know, and you won't really pay any mind. And you just place love there. And you delink and you detach. Yet there are other aspects in life, especially those ones that you know affect you, especially those ones that you know push your buttons or trigger you. What are you hearing? How are you listening? Are you not speaking up then? If someone says something and it deeply affects you, that is your opportunity. That is a signal and a sign for you to step into the initiation of your full power and authority and the activation of your throat chakra by being able to speak your truth. Again, your voice, your words, your thoughts, they excite atoms in this universe. And ultimately, we learn that we are more than atoms. We are more than this grid. We are more than this grid matrix of collective consciousness. Yet our work here, if we should choose it, is to learn to master the matrix. Learn to master that matrix with love, with 4D consciousness. So we get back to love. And we learn how to bridge love, how to be love. We learn how to bridge heaven on earth just naturally by that conscious ability to speak our truth and to hear the truth. You know, sometimes there's that saying or this notion that people are really always showing us their truth, who they are. But are we really listening? You know, and there are times we get into situations and we go, wow. And after the fact, we're like, wow, you know what? The whole time that guy, I went on this date, say, and this is just a story, but just say you go on this date with some guy or some girl, and their actions or their words, they're telling you from the beginning that they're crazy. They're like, yeah, well, I'm crazy. And you're like, yeah, that's cute. But you think they're like really hot. So you're like, oh yeah, that's okay. Meanwhile, they keep telling you, well, I'm really crazy. And you're like, that's okay. They're really hot. I don't care, you know? And then you get in, you know, 2-3 weeks later and like, you know, some weird stuff goes down and you're like, oh my God, the whole time they were telling me they were crazy, but they were so hot that I overlooked it. You know, there's things in life where the world, people are always telling us the truth, even like the bubble of light, but like the weird, the funky situation or characters in life, like the tar body people, like they have to. It's almost this interesting thing where they have to tell you who they are. And those funky people with that funky energy will tell you. They can't help it because that's their truth in that time and space. And so the world is constantly talking to you. It is constantly telling you what is present. Are you listening? And from your deep listening, are you making a conscious choice whether you want to participate in that or not? Because what you decide, what you allow in, is what will be for you. And then so we think about it and we go into our meditations and we go deep and we really listen then to our higher self. And higher self says, well, you got to clean up this aura. Look at all these agreements you have with all of these people, these places, these things from your parents or from life or society or that party you went to on Friday night. Look at all that stuff that you did and that you were in agreement with, that you know maybe isn't in true resonance with who you feel you are in your full power and authority, with who you feel you'd like to be as you grow and heal your life. And so there's this very interesting initiation again of you speaking up for you. You know, what happens in that story in my book is that guy was fully sexually just pushing the boundaries. And I just was frigid. I was so terrified, unable to use my voice to say no or to say fuck off or to just push him away or whatever. I was terrified. That situation eventually resolved itself to a fashion. And it's sometime later, I came into contact with this person again and I walked past him and I had found, I just knew that I had to exercise that throat chakra. And I walked up to him and it took every bit of courage in my body, in my heart. But I approached him and I told him my truth. And I told him the situation, that I could not speak up for myself. And so the situation was allowed to go to to a degree that I would really not have otherwise liked. And I mean, there's a whole section in the book, but he was like, well, you didn't say no, so I thought it was okay, and da da da, and you blah blah blah. You're just, you're just flirting and all that. And I was like, no, listen to me now. And at the end of it, he heard me a little bit, but he didn't really absorb it. And that might happen sometimes. But the power is that the power in that story was that I was able to eventually come around and have that opportunity. I saw the opportunity. I walked up to him and I was able to then speak my truth. And it really wasn't important the level that he was able to absorb it. What was important is that I was able to come back around and say what I needed to say, to create a new set point, so that in the future, when I perhaps would come into alignment with those situations, that I would be able to be more badass, more clear, more true, more grounded in that truth. So your throat chakra, when you speak your truth, when you speak anything, it is grounding your experience. It is grounding, again, your words excite the atoms, construct and create the realities that you experience. It brings into matter of factness what you are speaking, and it grounds your experience. As you speak into the world, so it is. And the set point is you, from which you extend your validation or your non-validation, your co-creation with the universe. And so what you speak sends out threads of energy, of vibration, that invites in like vibration. And the clearer you become on what you're going to allow your tongue to speak, on what you're going to allow other tongues to speak on your behalf, other tongues to place in your auric field, other tongues to place in your personal matrix, the clearer you become about keeping that space tidy and learning how to gracefully say, oh, no, thank you, I'm actually not into that. That's all it takes. You don't have to, be mean about it, but all it takes is your ability to really listen. And what happens is that you actually have more energy when you're being true and honest to yourself, and when you're not allowing other people's stories, beliefs and considerations and fears and just whatever all this stuff is that people just talk and talk and talk. Here I am talking. But you know what I mean? When you have those conversations, those interactions with the world, you will find that you have a lot more energy when you are not carrying the stories and the projections and the fears or the invisible agreements that we come into agreement with in this world. When you say no thank you, actually that doesn't resonate with me, but cheers, you're all to you, everyone for their own. What you're saying is, I'm honoring my here I am. I'm honoring the truth, the seeds of truth in that second chakra. That is not in resonance with who I know and what I am here to be and embody. And so what happens is that your here I am, the truth that you're here to be and embody, is given, like, it takes more time out of the equation. And so your here I amness is given the right of way. And so the more, pardon my French, but the more bullshit that we allow in, the more stories of other people's that we don't sort of consciously create the healthy boundary and say, oh, namaste, no thank you, that's not for me, I feel differently other than that. Whatever it is, if we don't do that, fine, it's okay, everything's gonna be fine. The natural order of love will find its way. Yet, do you know what I mean? If you're in this, and if this resonates, and if you're like in that throat chakra zone right now, or whenever, if you see this later, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm in that throat chakra thing, I feel it, okay, I'm resonating with this, then know that that's a part of your initiation. This is a part of where you're at now, is your ability to speak up for yourself. But also, remember, what does that have to do with? It has to do with your ability to deeply listen, number one, to your truth, to your higher self, to the voice for God, to the Jiminy Cricket, your conscience, to honor your truth that is deeply rooted, to your here I am. Because every choice, every decision, every agreement, every unagreement, every way that we extend or not extend our energy is aligning the path towards the true self. And the true self is you having limitless time and space, is you being free and being sovereign of the stories of the world, is you being in the NOWOSPHERE. And the now and the NOWOSPHERE is outside of time and space, is outside of the constructs of the mouth, of the mind, The mouth and the mind, time and space, duality, binary. This is all the grid matrix of collective consciousness. It is all the past. It is all the past. It is all whatever the future potentials could be. But all those future potentials are based on the past, on all those stories. And where God is a verb is, where the NOWOSPHERE is, where you in your full power and authority is, in the full love and light of your beautiful just beingness, in the experience of that, the unabashed experience of you being your authentic full self. That's in the now. And the now is where God lives, is where love lives. And the now is where, why is it outside of time and space? Because it is the spontaneous, because it is where the divine synchronicity, it is where the flow and the alignment of you resides. And it is always here. It is you in the now. And your ability to listen truly and to speak truly, or to even remain silent truly, is what helps to create that alignment. And when you align your here I am, your true self, with your spoken word, with your ability to listen deeply, you begin to experience a very powerful mystical realm of you that is always here. Yet the stories and the words that we speak out and that we allow in may be creating a static with that. And so that's why becoming really impeccable at listening is really important in your freedom, in your sovereignty. Listen, deep listening. When someone says something and you can't hear or understand, do you just let it go, or do you say, pardon me, right? So that, again, that cycle of speaking and listening, that's all the throat chakra, this triangle, grounding your experience. And that's really you being a master of your time and space. That's you being in your full power and authority. Think about it, those business people, or those high rolling people, right? These people are high communicators. They have the ability to listen and to hear. And if they don't understand something very clearly, they'll say, excuse me, pardon me, what do you mean? Like they want to get everything clear. They don't want to waste their time and their energy on some, thread of whatever information that isn't in alignment with their truth. They're not going to waste their time and space on it, right? And so also, we don't have to waste our time and space on those peripheral things, on those stories. And again, that's one thing to have fun and to joke. And we all do these spiritual memes and we make fun of ourselves and spirituality and, just the world. And it's fun, to do that stuff, but we know that we're having fun. But when it comes to you in your full power and authority, and you having the experience of a lifetime, which is right now, cultivating the ability to speak your truth, to listen to your truth, and to listen to others. Because remember, love is in everyone, right? When we take away the stories, when we take away the mind, and we're not saying to take all this away. We're learning to master the mind. We're learning to master the stories. We're learning to master the matrix so that we can bridge heaven on earth, so we can be in the world and not of it, not be bound by those stories. But when we learn through the initiation of these aspects to do that, to be that, to embody that, the world that you experience or that you've been told is the world begins to collapse, and metaphysically, earth begins to abide. And the earth is the fourth dimension. The world is the third dimension. And to learn how to be in both, in your full majesty and authority, in alignment with love, rooted in your truth, this is the mystic gift of trust. This is the mystic gift of metaphysics, of your inner metaphysician. Your tongue. What does Florence Scovel-Shinn say? She says, your word is your wand. And some people say, your words cast spells. However you want to say it. Think about what are you saying over your body, over your health? And you're wondering why things don't change if you keep saying the same story. And where did that story come from? And sometimes you can go down that line and heal all that stuff, but sometimes you just be like, snip, cut, put love there, and let a new story, plant a new story, a new seed within yourself to let that grow. But again, really deeply listening to others, to yourself, to your truth, and then allowing your tongue to speak on behalf of your truth is very, very powerful. This is where, again, the world shapeshifts from this system, from the matrix, into heaven on earth realization, and it happens through you. You are the bridge. You are the bridge. And within the hologram of yourself resides all divine appointments, all divine synchronicities, all the set points that lead you to your perfect joy, to your perfect health. Think about your finances. How can you express your considerations and beliefs in that realm in ways that can better serve you with the truth that you know is yours? Your relationships. You know, the power of repetition, we get to be really mindful of, because what are we doing here on our path to enlightenment, on our path to mastering the matrix, on the path to mastering really our own personal matrix, first and foremost? That's where the mastery of the grand grid matrix of collective consciousness begins, is you mastering your personal matrix. And that resides in us learning how to be a master of our time and space. The time that we create is the gift of the tip of the tongue. Every word you speak, again, excites atoms, co-creates a reality. The space that you keep are the thoughts that you think about the words you speak. And both of those aspects, your mind and your mouth, connect you to the grid matrix. And what you say, I wrote it here on the board over there, what you see is what you get, right? Your environment is alive and responds to your perception of it. Equally, the way that I perceive what you're saying is going to inform me about what abides. Yet if I'm misunderstanding what you're saying, then I'm going to misunderstand the whole situation. What you say is what you get. And so we're moving from being unconscious to conscious. We're moving from just letting the mouth just blah, 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 blah. And it's fine. We're good talkers here. You know? Yet we learn the impeccability. We learn, oh, you know, am I giving rise to considerations and to aspects that I really don't want to be true in my life? How can I better align my tongue or quiet my tongue so that when I do speak, it is really potent. It is really aligned with that second chakra, with the truth in your heart, that is able to ground that truth. And outside of time and space, come into that divine moment where the miracles abide. Now I'm going to have a look. I think we're going to do a little meditation here. I'm going to have a little look. Blessings. Oh, blessings. You know what? And I see there's a few of you here that are here for the Ask Me Anything. So on this show, just to let you know, 4D Trinity, once a month, I do the Q&A Ask Me Anything, where you can write in and ask me anything. And I see there's some really sincere questions here. But my friends, the other 3 days the other three Thursdays out of the month, 4D Trinity is my live stream where we speak about metaphysics, multidimensional healing, etc. And today's topic is the throat chakra. Are you listening? So again, throat chakra, are you listening? Maybe you read the title of this show, but did you really read it? Did you really read it? And if you did, maybe you would have realized. And I'm saying that just with love, because this is a perfect example of how we just and with love, we just make assumptions sometimes, right? We fill in the dots, we fill in the gaps. Yet what's really going on? What is the information that's really there? And believe me, I'm the first one to try to put the table together and read the instructions only after after the table looks funky and I can't put it together, you know. So I get it. We're all learning this, but I offer that with love, is that in a couple weeks, it's once a month. So, and you know what? I don't know the date. But it's every 4. So we did our Q&A last week. So there's going to be today's show, next week's show, the show after that week, and then the week after that we'll be back for the Q&A. All right. And I do offer spiritual counseling. Go to my website, sign up for my love letter, write me an email. I'll give you my rates if you want to talk, or if you want a tarot, intuitive reading, spiritual counseling on the side. I'm happy to offer that. Okay. But in the meantime, it's going to be a minute till we get back to our Q&A. So what other points here do we have to say? Let's see. And thank you again, everyone, for hopping on. I'm so very grateful. And I pray, as always, that everything I share truly serves your path of spiritual growth and sovereignty. We're creating this 4D consciousness collectively together. We are co-creating and coming into that heart center together. We are that heart. Really, sure, while we're in a body, we're all these stories. We're all these stories, working these stories out, healing these stories, transmuting those stories that don't resonate, and allowing that which is love to abide, coming back to that truth that the only story is that you are love. And when you know you are love, you don't have to know anything else. 2 or 3 minute meditation. If you're into it, let's do it. Okay. And if you're on Insta, and if you came on late, the reruns of all of these 4D Trinities are at my YouTube, and all that. Those links are through my website via my main page on Insta. So let's just take a moment, take a breath, close the eyes, and we connect with our higher self. So even just in this instance, what message does your higher self have for you on this day, specific to you cultivating a deeper ability to listen through your throat chakra? Drop in and deeply listen. What guidance does your higher self have for you today in regards to you cultivating a deeper ability to listen to others, to what they're saying, to the world, to your truth, to God, to love, to nature? How can you cultivate and strengthen that musculature within yourself? And as those visions or those percolations of awareness come manifest within, next, we'll ask higher self, in cultivating that ability to listen, in what areas of my life now can I cultivate a deeper strengthening of expressing my truth, my authority, my integrity, and my impeccability? In what areas of life can I cultivate a deeper strengthening of expressing my truth, in my authenticity, my impeccability, my self-mastery? And just take a moment to listen to what higher self has to share. And take a breath in and a breath out. We'll thank higher self. We'll slowly open the eyes and come back. So I know that was short. We're going to be wrapping up here in a minute or two. And just recognizing that, when we speak our truth, the world shows us that truth. The world shows us more of that truth. Your truth is rooted in love, and the love that is beyond our imagination, that is beyond the confines and the limits of our words, of anything that we can think, but that is also present in everything. That is that life force, that love force, that God force. It is always here. I'm going to leave you with one thought. When the human cells are first come together, when you were created as a little embryo, the first thing to form is the heart. And the next thing to form is your tongue. Your tongue is rooted with your heart. Your tongue is rooted in love always and evermore. So let your heart lead the tongue, and your life will show up in amazing ways. It'll allow you to show up in amazing ways too. Insta's going to be over here in a second. Thank you everyone for hopping on. I love you. Thank you so much for following and for sharing. I'm so very, very, very grateful. Again, you can follow on Insta if you're on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing, YouTube. Go to my website, tuesdaymaythomas.com. All of my links are down below. Check out my books and sign up for my monthly love letter. I'm so very grateful. And again, my friends, looking for a Q&A for DT. That's going to happen in about 3 weeks. Thank you so much. Blessings and namaste, everyone, with so much love. Thank you. Blessings, blessings, blessings.